Hello everyone, welcome back to 3 News Now. I'm Stephanie Haney. It's Tuesday, August 4th. This is your afternoon update from WKYC.com and our WKYC app, bringing you everything you need to know here in Northeast Ohio. And wow, is there a lot to talk about right now. Governor Mike DeWine in his press conference announced that students will be required to wear masks if they return to in-person classes in the fall, and that's all students except for students 2 and under, with a few exceptions, which we'll get to. Also, Dr. Amy Acton will no longer be working for the state of Ohio. We'll tell you what we know about that. We've also got your new numbers related to COVID-19 here in the state of Ohio from the Ohio Department of Health, which are up today. We'll let you know what the Ohio High School Athletic Association is saying about that Ohio Department of Health order that will require COVID-19 testing before contests between schools. And we're going to end on some good news for you if you are a Halloween lover. Let's get right to the biggest updates from Governor Mike DeWine's press conference up to this point. He now says that he will be putting an order into effect that requires students to wear masks at schools here in Ohio if they return to in-person learning. This will be for all students. Kindergarten through grade 12 in the state of Ohio will be required to wear face masks or facial coverings. DeWine says that this will give Ohio the best chance to get its students back into the classroom, and that the Ohio Children's Hospital Association and Ohio pediatricians have jointly recommended that all students returning to school wear masks in the fall. Now, the exception will be for students who are age 2 and under, and also, of course, for those medical issues that we've talked about that are exceptions across the board for the mask mandate here in Ohio, people who physically can't wear a facial covering, and also for those behavioral issues that do result in people not being able to wear a facial covering. DeWine said as well that the state is working with FEMA to distribute 2 million masks to schools to be used by students and staff that do end up reopening in person at some point in the near future. Here is another big announcement from Governor Mike DeWine's press conference today. Dr. Amy Acton, former Ohio Health Director, will be leaving her role as advisor to Governor Mike DeWine. Instead, she will be returning to the Columbus Foundation. That's where she worked before becoming the Ohio Department of Health Director. She will no longer be working for the state of Ohio. DeWine tweeted after he made the announcement that it saddens him that she'll be leaving his office, but she has assured him that she's just a phone call away and will be available to continue advising as we move through this pandemic. So she'll no longer be working for the state, but it sounds like that communication line will be open between Governor DeWine and Dr. Amy Acton. Now let's talk about the new numbers that are just out from the Ohio Department of Health. Today, new daily reported cases are up and new daily reported deaths are also up. More people have been hospitalized, but overall there are slightly less people today in the ICU than there were yesterday. So let's break those numbers down. Today there have been 1,143 new reported cases of COVID-19 in the state of Ohio. That brings the total number of cases to 95,106. That's dating back to March 9th. The Ohio Department of Health is presuming that about 75%, 3/4 of those cases, have already recovered. So that's 71,338 cases they presume to be recovered. So that means 1/4 of those cases, 25%, are assumed to be active right now. In the last 24 hours, there have been 31 new deaths reported related to COVID-19. That brings the total number of deaths in Ohio up to 3,570. 31 deaths reported today is up quite a bit from yesterday when there were 10 new deaths reported. There have been 127 new hospitalizations reported in the last 24 hours. That brings the total number of people who have been hospitalized to now 11,119. And the number of people who are hospitalized right now, today, related to COVID-19 is 1,038. That's 37 more than yesterday. So when you look at the shuffling between people who have been newly admitted to the hospital and people who have been discharged from the hospital, we now see 37 more people currently in the hospital today than we saw yesterday. There have been 33 new ICU admissions reported in the last 24 hours, and the number of people who are in the ICU right now today is 340. That's 8 less than we saw yesterday. So the number of people who are currently in the ICU is down just a bit, and 33% of all the people who are hospitalized right now are in the ICU right now. So just about 1/3 of all people hospitalized are receiving treatment in the intensive care unit. The total number of people who have needed ICU treatment related to COVID-19 in Ohio is now 2,593. Let's look at those global and national numbers now from Johns Hopkins University. Here in the U.S., we're getting close to 5 million reported cases of COVID-19. That total number now is 4,738,853 reported cases of COVID-19 in the U.S., and the total number of deaths in the U.S. is now 156,041. Now, if you compare the number of deaths to the number of cases in the U.S., that's a 3.3% death rate. When we compare the U.S. numbers to the global numbers, the U.S. reports about 26% of the known global cases and about 22.5% of the known global deaths. Globally, there are now 18,359,053 reported cases of COVID-19 and 659,709 reported deaths related to COVID-19. That makes for a global death rate of 3.6%. Now, as we get new guidance and new information about what we should be doing when we go out in public, the Cleveland Clinic is confirming again what they previously said about wearing gloves while grocery shopping. The Cleveland Clinic reposted something about this, which they have previously said this as well, that it's not necessarily wrong to wear gloves, but incorrect use makes them ineffective, so they recommend just skip the gloves because people aren't doing it in the proper way that would make it more effective. Infectious disease specialist Dr. Patricia Dandash says what happens is many people don't take the gloves off right away, further contaminating themselves and others around them. So as for how to shop safely, the recommendations are wear a mask, limit what you touch, keep your distance, skip the gloves, be fast about it, and only go out when necessary. So if you think about that, this makes perfect sense because if you're wearing the same set of gloves and you're just touching everything, you might as well just be using your hands because you're wearing gloves to touch this, and then you've got the same gloves on, you're touching something else, and you are just spreading whatever germs you're spreading from touching this and touching that thing, and then you take off the gloves. They're saying just wash your hands. Just go with your hands and just wash your hands, sanitize often, and make sure that you're doing so thoroughly. Now the Ohio High School Athletic Association is talking more about that Ohio Department of Health order requiring testing before contact sport activities between schools. The Ohio High School Athletic Association posted a follow-up memo, sent out a follow-up memo to member schools, clarifying some aspects of the Ohio Department of Health order about that testing that will be required. Bob Goldring, who is the interim executive director, said that it was only temporary in his memo to member schools and that he continues to work with the Ohio Department of Health on what will actually be required. So we'll be watching for more from the Ohio High School Athletic Association and also the Ohio Department of Health on what exactly will be required if fall sports move forward. We do know that the Ohio High School Athletic Association has given its blessing for fall sports to move forward, but the Ohio Department of Health definitely has something to say about that in terms of what's required for that to happen. And also, some schools have opted out based on guidance from County Board of Health officials. We do also know that orders from the Ohio Department of Health are prohibiting fans in the stands not just at high school contests, but also at all levels. So that includes Cleveland Browns games and Ohio State University games. We previously saw what Ohio State's plan was if it were to have fans in the Horseshoe this season, but that will not be permitted under what has currently been ordered by the Ohio Department of Health because ODH says spectators are not permitted at the contact sports competitive inter-club team play. And they confirmed to 3 News that that applies to all level of sports. That includes college and professional. So according to ODH, contact sports include football, basketball, rugby, field hockey, soccer, lacrosse, wrestling, hockey, boxing, futsal, and martial arts with opponents. We also know that the Cleveland Browns had previously had conversations and sent out communications to season ticket holders that the likelihood of the stadium being at full capacity is very low. So we know that this order from the Ohio Department of Health currently at this point doesn't allow that at all. Now, if you are a Halloween fan, you will be happy to know this. Spirit, the Halloween store that we always see pop up seasonally for Halloween with lots of costumes, says that they will be open. There's been a post that's been circulating on social media that said that Spirit Halloween stores might not be open this year due to COVID-19, but the company says that's not true. Ignore that. They say they will be opening their 1,400 locations nationwide as early as this month. So you might be able to start thinking about Halloween before the end of the month here in Northeast Ohio. Spirit says it's been a challenging year, but they promise to keep the Halloween spirit alive, and their stores are expected to be open. That is it for your 3 News Now afternoon update. I will see you next up on What's New at 5 p.m. with your trending stories, the stories that everyone's clicking on WKYC.com and in our WKYC app. If you don't yet have our WKYC app, make sure you download that because you can stream What's New right there, as well as all of our shows in the WKYC app. I'll see you back here tomorrow morning with your 3 News Now update early edition. Everyone enjoy the rest of your afternoon. I'll see you at 5 on What's New. I'm Stephanie Haney.